streamers, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I usually do videos makeup related and beauty related, so if you're interested, I would really love it if you subscribe below and like this video. I know it's a really weird way to start this video with my eyes kind of with makeup on and the rest of my face just bare, but today I'm going to be doing a first impression and review on a foundation. That is the Cover FX Play Foundation. I'm going to give you guys all the details in a second, so without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. When I saw this, I thought it was unbelievable that they came out with 40 shades, so there's definitely a shade for you if you're looking for one. For me, it was very hard because they have all types of undertones, and I usually shop online. I don't really like going into a store and look at it. It says a modern matte blurring foundation with way less full coverage that provides sweat-proof all-day wear, long-lasting shine control, environmental protection, and a finish that will not oxidize. It is vegan, waterproof, transfer-proof, and it's paraben-free. So basically, the shades come with a letter before the number, and the P stands for pink, N stands for neutral, G stands for golden, and G plus stands for golden olive, which is the one I chose without actually reading it. I think I should have gone for G, but I went for G plus 50. That's all the website says. As I said before, I chose the shade G plus 50, so I'm gonna go ahead and open it. This is how the bottle looks like. This is a clear container. You can definitely see the shade right there, and it doesn't feel like it's glass or anything. It feels like a hard plastic. You can kind of like squeeze this, and the top is just a plastic kind of metallic-y shade. This brings 1.18 fluid ounce, which is a little bit more than usual foundations that bring 1 fluid ounce. I was surprised to see that it brings 1.18 ounces. Comparing to the YSL, look how small it looks. Maybe they found a better way to package it, but it's definitely very small and compact. When you open it, you have to screw it up, and it's a squeezy bottle, which is the first time I'm seeing this. I kind of always prefer a pump, but there's actually no difference for me because I usually just pump it into whatever I'm using, so in this case I just can squeeze it in. The only thing is that when you're squeezing something, I feel like you use a lot more product. So I'm going to be doing half of my face with a brush and then half of my face with a sponge. This one is the 110 brush by IT Cosmetics, and then I'm going to be using my Flower Beauty sponge. So I always use primer before my foundation. I just find it more effective, and for me it does make a difference. I'm going to be using this Dr. Brandt primer. I used to have this primer and I used to love it, so I was really happy to see that they had it on the box. I love this primer. I just always meant to buy it again and I never did. This is a pore refiner primer, but honestly it does the job very well. Alright, now I'm ready to go into the foundation. I'm going to show you a little bit of how the shade looks like. So that's a shade right there. This is G plus 50, and I think it's going to fit because usually when foundations look a little bit yellow, they kind of fit my skin for some reason. I just don't know about the olive on it. I'm putting 1 pump in my brush, and what I think it's 1 pump. And I'm going to put this on the left side of my face. So that was a full pump. Usually I put 1 full pump in my whole face, but since I'm using a brush, I feel like it sucked up a little more product, which I usually don't think is the case. I usually get more coverage from a brush, but I always do prefer this sponge application over this one. So far, I don't feel like it's covering a lot. I can definitely see the texture of my skin. It's not clinging into any fine lines or anything like that, but I would say it's like a medium coverage so far. So I'm going to go into my beauty sponge and I'm going to put what I think, again, it's 1 pump. And this is what I was afraid of. Now it's getting like super hard to get this out. Okay, there we go. So again, I use another full pump on my right side, and I'm not seeing a lot of coverage. I'm seeing like medium coverage almost. The feel of it is very lightweight. I don't feel like I have foundation on my skin, but like I said, I don't feel like it's super full coverage yet. As far as finishes, this one looks a lot more like dewy than this side. This side looks more matte. I always do prefer this sponge better than the brush side, but this one's it's not looking bad at all. I'm gonna do 1 pump again on each side and see how this layers up. I do have to say, this is really bugging me. This feels like a whole workout right here. Alright, so that right there is 2 pumps. I really love how this foundation is layering up. The foundation doesn't feel cakey at all. It really doesn't feel like I have 4 pumps in my face. I really love how it all blended out. I am loving this side. Not that I have anything against this one. I just love how matte and like flawless this side looks. Shade-wise, I feel like the olive undertone is throwing me off, but I don't think it's so far off. I feel like I could have been better with just the golden 50, but this one I'm not hating it. Once I put the concealer on, it's not gonna look as orange or deep on my face. So now I'm gonna start layering things up. I don't know if you guys are interested on this part, but I definitely want to see how things sit on top. So I'm gonna be using the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer in the shade Light Medium Honey. I'm just gonna blend it out with my beauty blender because I do prefer it for concealer. I have to say, I do like the fact that they actually made an olive undertone. Not because I am olive, but I know a lot of people that are olive undertones, they do struggle finding their shade because companies don't usually make olive undertones. So I'm really happy to see such an inclusive launch from Cover FX. That is sitting beautiful on top of the foundation. I do feel like I have to set it. Even though it's matte, I always set my foundations and I usually buy them matte. And also because Shape Tape, you definitely have to set it. If not, it's gonna start creasing. I'm not gonna bake, I'm just gonna be setting this with this BANA pressed powder. This one is in the shade 105. And I'm taking my Sigma F25 brush and I'm gonna be placing this right over top. For bronzer, I'm going to be using the Tarte Clay Play palette. I'm going to be mixing Terracota and Desert. Taking my Flower Beauty brush, this is just a bronzer brush. I'm going to start putting my bronzer. Always happens to me with Tarte. It's so freaking pigmented. Alright guys, so I did my whole makeup and I thought I would show you a little bit closer. Right now it's 6 p.m. and I applied this maybe 10 to 15 minutes ago. I can see how my line right here is starting to show, but overall I usually have a very accentuated line over my forehead and you can barely see it right there. I really loved how everything applied over top. I dislike a little bit the bronzer, but not how it applied. That's actually a personal issue that I have with the Tarte bronzer because I always forget how pigmented it is and I always go with like a very hard hand. But everything else looks so beautiful. My skin seriously feels like porcelain. And also right here, I'm not noticing that my pores are very accentuated. This is like my problem area right here, so right now that's looking very good. I do have to say that I did use the Dr. Brand primer, so that has something to do with it, but I've had foundations where that is usually a problem even though I use that primer. I'm gonna zoom you guys out so you can see the whole look and I'm gonna give you my final thoughts. Alright guys, so let's get real with this foundation. So I really have to say I am super impressed with this little foundation. So I'm gonna start with the bad things because there are less than the good things. So one thing I disliked was that I used 4 pumps for my whole face. That is a lot of foundation. I usually don't have to use that much. I would use maybe if I like do a full coverage, I would use 2 pumps, but rarely I do that. I always use like 1 pump on all the full coverage foundations that I own. The second thing that I disliked was the bottle, the squeezy bottle. I think it's a good idea that they had in their head, but when you go to use it, it's very hard. On my first time using it, it gave me a little bit of trouble a couple of times and it was honestly a workout to just like be kind of like squeezing this tube. That's the 2 things that I dislike. Now, on the things that I like, the finish on this foundation, I think it's incredible. I think even though I have 4 pumps on my face, it still looks very natural. It doesn't look like I have a ton of makeup on. It definitely looks like I have a matte full coverage foundation, but it doesn't look like you can't see any of my blemishes. You can't see almost any of my lines. You can barely see one right here. I love how everything applied over top, just like very smooth. It feels very smooth, and the shade, I think it fits me very well. I don't know if I want to go for the G50 because I kind of like this one. I would like to see myself on like a flash photography to see if there are any issues with like my skin mixing with this color, but so far I love it. I love the fact that it has 40 shades to choose from. I feel like $44 is usually the amount of money that I spend on a foundation. It kind of fluctuates depending on the brand, but I feel like that's very average for a full coverage high-end foundation. I do like that it brings a little bit more than the usual amount that foundations bring. It brings 1.18 ounces, and overall I am like super in love with this foundation. I gave you guys a little zoom so you could see how it actually looks on my face. When I was applying it, I ended up liking the sponge side better, but honestly now I don't see any difference at all. I did use a primer. I did set it with powder under my eyes and my forehead and everywhere I applied concealer. And the concealer is not creasing over top of it, which is amazing to even know, because Shape Tape does that to me with any foundation. At the end of the day, I would have a little bit of crease on it. I also use setting spray. I use the Too Faced Hangover 3-in-1 setting spray. These are the steps that I always follow with my foundation, and this is just how I like to use them. So for me, this is how I really test them out, using all these products together. And yeah, so far I am really loving it. I'm gonna give you guys one last update. I'm gonna get off for a couple of hours and then I'll be back and tell you guys how it's looking. Alright guys, so it's 1 a.m. It's about 8 hours, almost 8 hours since I applied it, and I do have to say there has been absolutely no change in it. I am a little bit more shiny right here, but I don't even look dewy. It doesn't even get to the point of me looking dewy. I still look very matte. It still looks very flawless. I still have this very slight fine line here and right here, but I feel like I just take a sponge and kind of fix it up. I didn't apply any setting powder. I didn't apply anything over top after I just left, and everything is looking perfect. Even the bronzer that I kind of hated kind of fixed itself, but I still apply way too much. I am so surprised with the concealer and how that's looking, because usually I don't have a foundation that makes the concealer look this good after like almost 8 hours. So yeah, I have to say I am really impressed. As far as the shade, I kind of think that the olive undertone is kind of making me look a little ashy, so I am going to change it for just a golden one. So my final thoughts is that I really love this foundation. I feel like it's very worth it if you're looking for a foundation that is full coverage, matte finish, and great for summer. I feel like this is it. So I feel like as far as the cleans, I didn't test it with the waterproof part, but it's definitely sweat proof, it's definitely matte, and it's definitely full coverage. It's not going to be full coverage as soon as you apply it, but it's definitely very buildable and it looks amazing. With this said guys, this is definitely the end of this video. Thank you so much for sticking to the end. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and you subscribed and liked this video before you leave, and I'll see you on my next one. Bye! There goes a sight from my soul. There goes a sight, there goes a sight. Now there goes a sight from my soul. There goes a sight from my soul. Society.